What's up everybody, Maran here for another My Week With video. So this week I've been driving the 2025 Hyundai Santa Fe Hybrid calligraphy trim, and I've actually put over 400 miles on it here during my week of driving. So I have lots of impressions here, lots of fuel economy impressions in particular, because that is the big news here, is the hybrid version that I haven't driven or experienced yet until this week. I already did 2 videos on the regular Santa Fe. You can check those out for all the details on the Santa Fe, my thoughts on the vehicle in general. This video is going to primarily focus on the hybrid components, because that is, again, the new addition here. And really the big deal with the hybrid is that it completely gets rid of the powertrain of the regular Santa Fe and instead swaps in a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, and even swaps the transmission to a 6-speed torque converter automatic. And those are big changes. So as far as the engine itself, it is a big downgrade in power compared to the regular Santa Fe, which does 277 horsepower with a turbocharged 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, really a nice punchy motor. This, you go down to 232 horsepower. So, you're down over 40 horsepower there. Now, in a vehicle like this, you don't need to have a drag racer. And what I've noticed is, yes, it certainly feels slower than the regular Santa Fe, even with a little bit of electric assist you get here with the hybrid, but it's not wildly slower. And, I think these still are going to be able to do like, 7.5 seconds there to 60 or something like that. It's still totally fine. Sure, I do miss the extra power of the regular Santa Fe, but the one thing I don't miss about the regular Santa Fe is that vehicle's lack of smoothness. The dual clutch automatic transmission in the regular Santa Fe has been problematic so far for the rollout of this new generation Santa Fe. There's been some issues with it, and also even if it doesn't have actual issues, it's just not a smooth operating transmission. And I complained about this in my week with the regular Santa Fe. And so thankfully, now having a torque converter automatic and having the hybridization, which allows you to do a lot of off-engine coasting and a lot of electric coasting, it makes this so much smoother. And this is miles better from a refinement and smoothness standpoint than the regular Santa Fe. And for that reason alone, I would happily give up the 40 odd horsepower and go for the hybrid version. There's other perks of the hybrid here as well, but that's all the convincing I need to go for a hybrid version. And I can just save you some time. If you already were kind of into the hybrid, but you were a little uncertain, I could just say, if it were me, I'd go for the hybrid every single time. And I think this is the version of the Santa Fe to get. And honestly, in my opinion, because of the issues with the transmission on the regular Santa Fe, this is the only version of the Santa Fe I would consider personally right now. Hopefully they get some of those issues ironed out with the regular Santa Fe, but for me, it's hybrid or nothing right now. And it's also just really, really good. And that's also why I'd pick the hybrid over the regular version every single time. Now, the hybrid system isn't perfect. So, even though it does have a 6-speed automatic that's, nice and smooth and normal feeling, and you have a turbocharged engine and that electric little punch, I did find myself having a few instances, actually it's pretty repeatable, where you can catch this vehicle off guard, and especially it really resists full throttle acceleration. So I'll just try here. So from a stop, see, it's like there was like a little from the electric motor, and then there was the engine kicking on, and then there's the turbo boost kicking in. So there's multiple levels of bursts of acceleration you have there, and that's not totally smooth. And there have been some times where I've put my foot into it aggressively, and it's like 1, 2, 3, there we go, now everything's woken up and we finally have the power I'm looking for. And the delay at times is so bad that I almost wonder if it's borderline, like a safety concern. And it's also not super repeatable as far as when exactly it happens. There's always the stages of power there. That's pretty repeatable. But there's sometimes where, again, you just catch it off guard, and I don't know why, but you're waiting multiple seconds before it gives you the acceleration you're expecting. So it's not a very consistent experience. So I don't love that. Now, the regular Santa Fe did, have kind of a little bit of weirdness with the transmission, but at least that was a little more predictable in its behavior. So it's the lesser of the two evils here. Still, for me, I'd rather have this. I would just say, if you're the type of person that really likes to take chances and pull out in front of traffic and things like that, you might want to make sure the coast is clear and you got, several seconds of a lull before you attempt to, fly through an intersection or something like that. But, again, this week, you know, it's been a minor annoyance, but it hasn't been something that scared me or upset me. You know, it's just been something I've noticed and definitely want to pass along to you guys. But otherwise, though, you know, it's a really nice thing to cruise around in. But the big thing, of course, with the hybrid, I'm sure you're wondering about, is the fuel economy. That is another thing. It's not as awesome as I was hoping it would be, honestly, but it is still better than the regular Santa Fe by a long shot, and most of the other competitors as well. So, as far as fuel economy, these are rated at a 34 mpg combined and on the highway, and 35 mpg in the city for the all-wheel drive versions. You can get front-wheel drive still in these, and then that gives you 1 mpg better. And all-wheel drive, by the way, is an $1,800 option on all trims. So you can get a fully loaded one with front-wheel drive, which is rare. Some of the other competitors will force you into all-wheel drive, and it's a nice cost savings here to not have to go for that all-wheel drive if you live in a place where you're never going to need that. You know, it didn't really perform as well as I was hoping as far as that fuel economy. So a lot of my driving, you know, 412 miles I've driven here so far, a majority of that was on a highway road trip going from the southeastern part of Maryland up to Pittsburgh here. And in that driving, just doing that highway trip on its own, again, almost no other driving, you know, aside from a couple quick little bathroom stops, I was getting 29.5 mpg. So, you know, again, these are supposed to be doing, you know, the 34 mpg. I am, you know, 4.5 under that. Now, I will say, typically in my driving, I do get 1 to 2 mpg less than the city rating. This is well beyond that, though. And again, I'm doing highway driving, so it's not so much even like the area I'm in. Now, I will say the highways were some slightly higher speed highways, you know, 70 mile per hour speed limit highways. And I am doing this, you know, video in the winter time here. So, you know, probably not able to lean on that hybrid system as much. It has to kick on the gas engine more to heat the cabin and all that. So certainly a worst case scenario, I'd say, for efficiency, but you know, just coasting on the highway, you would think after a while it would make up that efficiency loss of, you know, the cabin is heated, it doesn't need to keep blasting the heat, and it could rely on that, you know, hybrid assistance a little bit more. But 29 is, you know, 29.5 is what I got there on the highway. Now, as far as around town city driving, when we got back home here, I did just observe my individual trips. The Hyundai system is really good here with how it will, you know, show you just what your, you know, since last refill, last, you know, whatever, it will allow you to do those various different things. So it can just clock each drive as far as fuel economy. And doing that, my fuel economy observed around town, so, you know, coasting, I'm in hilly southwestern Pennsylvania, so climbing hills, but also, you know, rolling down a lot of them as well. My fuel economy average for each trip has been between 28 and 30 mpg. I did hit 35 mpg on one drive, and that was just a one time, a shorter trip. I was able to get 35, but that's the only time this ever hits, you know, those claims there. Again, probably a worst case scenario, but I was still hoping for a little bit better fuel economy. Now, you know, I did have one of the competing vehicles to this, the Toyota Crown Signia, just about a month and a half ago. So still colder weather, but not quite as cold as this. And that had no problem hitting 34 mpg, but that also is rated at 39, and I was only getting 34. So again, about, you know, 5 mpg difference there. It still did better than this, but, you know, it's just worth noting that's another vehicle also that fell well short of those claims. Take that for what it's worth. Your mileage, of course, will vary, and you know, that'll all come down to, you know, how you drive and all those other things. But the other thing I'll say, though, is as a result of that lower fuel economy, my range wasn't as high as I was hoping it would be. Whenever I got this vehicle delivered to me with a full tank of gas, it had told me it'd be doing about 600 miles of range, and I was like, oh, this is great. You know, I'm doing this long road trip, then I'm doing some around town driving. I won't even fill it up. I'll be able to, you know, motor along and be totally fine. And while the range is better than, you know, an average vehicle, and I'm sure, again, if you had that better efficiency, you could probably get 600 miles out of a tank with this. But in my driving here, I'd say I got about 450 miles of range out of a tank. I can't say exactly, because once I got to about 75 miles or so, I did go ahead and put 2 gallons of gas in here to you know, make sure this didn't run too low. But I'd say I'm about at, you know, if I do the math, probably about 450 miles before it would tell me it was empty. So again, your mileage will once again vary, but just a little bit of disappointment, you know, because it is really exciting to see, wow, I could do 600 miles on a tank. But at least in the wintertime on the highway, that would not be the reality. And my one other complaint that I have about this vehicle is that the lane keep assist system is really aggressive. A lot of other companies in the past year or so, even the past 2 years, have really refined their systems so they're smarter, they're less naggy, but they still provide you with that safety net. And this system still is constantly nudging at the wheel. And I mean, I was like staring at like when it engaged and where I was at in the lane. And it starts to correct you, I would say, several inches before you even hit the road line. I mean, it's not even happy with you staying within the lines. Like, you must be centered in the lines. Otherwise, it's like, all right, let's give you some assistance here. And you can turn the system off if you want, but there is no way to adjust the level of aggressiveness. So it's an everything or nothing setting. I wish there was a way, because with automatic emergency braking, you can often say, I want an aggressive setting, I want a relaxed setting. You can change that. I wish you could do that for the lane keep assist, but there is no way to change that. So it is just, you know, really nudging me a lot more than any vehicle, honestly, in the past year that I've tested with this system, or these kinds of systems in general. But the funny thing is, whenever I was on the highway, especially on that long highway road trip, I had the highway drive assist system that this has. You know, it does do auto lane changes even, and it's a very, you know, advanced system. A lot of journalists really love this system, really praise it a lot. But in my driving, this has been consistent with every single Hyundai and Kia and Genesis product pretty much that I have ever reviewed or tested with this highway drive assist system. It goes right over the road lines. And I even tested this whenever there wasn't any traffic around, and every single time it will, you know, sometimes it would nudge a little bit, but most of the time I would go right over the lines. And I'm like, so you're going to be super militant about making sure that I'm perfectly centered around town, but whenever I'm on the highway where you really need to make sure that you're, you know, staying within the lines, that's where it's just like, woo, do whatever you want to do. And I still don't get it. I looked through all the settings. I made sure everything was on. I made sure everything was, again, as corrective as it could possibly be. And it just lets me go right over the lines. And to me, that's a complete failing grade for a lane keep assist system on the highway if it lets you go over the lines without me, you know, aggressively intervening. I mean, obviously, if I need to go over the road lines, I want it to be able to allow me to do that. But, you know, whenever I'm just acting like I'm not paying attention, I'm just doing some more relaxed stuff. Here's an example, by the way. My foot was floored for like 3 seconds there until it finally gave me that acceleration, just trying to pass the delivery truck there that was pulled over. So, you know, anyway, you know, it's just upsetting that, you know, this lane keep assist system is still not good on the highway. I don't know when Hyundai's going to fix that so that it finally stops crossing lane markers. But, you know, that's something I'll just say. Basically, every other competitor will not let you do that. Or if they do, I know Mazda kind of lets you as well. And they made that a conscious choice where they have said they want the driver to be more in control. But everyone else basically will stop you from crossing the road lines unless you are, again, trying to do it intentionally. Now, as far as other hybrid info here, so, you know, it's basically the same as any other Santa Fe as far as, you know, the styling, as far as everything. Of course, you get a little power meter gauge here instead of a TAC, you know, because of the hybrid system. But everything else here is the same. It is also, though, worth noting there is no SE trim, the base trim for the Santa Fe. Not available here for the hybrid, at least for 2025. There's also no XRT trim. That's the more rugged kind of trim. That is, again, still only on the regular Santa Fe. So if you want to have those, you're going to have to, you know, skip the hybrid thing. So it's just 3 trims here. You have the SEL, you have the Limited, and then the Calligraphy. This one I'm in here is the Calligraphy, and this one also has this matte paint, which is a $1,000 option, but that puts the price of this one about $51,675. But of course, if you were to you know, get rid of the matte paint and go for a regular color, there is still some upcharges for other colors, so we'll call it 51 even for one of these as tested, because I'm sure many people aren't going to go for this matte paint. But at 51 grand, it is very well priced. I will also say that even at the lower trims, it's pretty well priced, and you know, because there's very few hybrid competitors in this mid-sized SUV segment, it's you know, it doesn't have a lot of competition, and it undercuts the few competitors it does have. Really, the one strongest competitor to this, in my opinion, is the Kia Sorento hybrid, which same powertrain, same parent company, also has some rugged looks, a little bit more of a traditional SUV though, less of a wagony thing like this. But there is, you know, that Sorento, and that comes in very similar pricing. Now, I will say it's kind of some of the older generation stuff. You know, it isn't a brand new model like the Santa Fe here, so I think the Santa Fe feels a little more impressive inside. side. And I think the styling is, a little bit more distinctive for this for sure. But that is just another one that's, very similarly priced and, gives you, very similar stuff there if you are looking to cross shop this with anything. And also, whenever you go to these upper trims here, especially the Toyota Crown Signia is very closely priced. I think it's around $700 extra or so for the Crown Signia. That is smaller. That's only 2 rows. That's the nice thing with the Sorento is it is an actual 3-row similar to this, but the Crown Signia doesn't have that. But that does do, again, better fuel economy. And, I was, happy to at least get 34 and, much better fuel economy than this. It's also, again, just thanks to that thing being smaller, more aerodynamic, lighter, and that's, going to be the formula you really need for good fuel economy. This is really not the best package for a hybrid, for maximum efficiency, but it's great they do offer because, again, so few others do. Really, aside from that Crown Signia, you have the other Toyotas, the Highlander Hybrid and Grand Highlander Hybrid, but then all the other stuff, and including those Toyotas, are going to be a lot more expensive. Even Highlanders start much higher and, get a lot more expensive in the upper trims. Same thing for Grand Highlander, and then there's like the more expensive stuff like the Moss's CX-70 and CX-90 plug-in hybrids. Those are, in the upper 50s. So there's really a strong case to be made for this. And again, like I said, even with all those imperfections and all those complaints, I think the Santa Fe is, definitely better as a hybrid. It would be my pick to go for the hybrid. And I think that now with, a pretty competent powertrain, this is, I'd say, one of my favorite picks in this segment. It just comes down to how much space you need. I think if you don't need the maximum amount of space, I'd rather have the Crown Signia. You also could save some money here for sure. For example, this calligraphy trim gives you the dual wireless charging pads, the UVC sanitation box, a very fun thing that shows this vehicle was developed in the COVID era. But that's a really cool feature if you do care about germs and keeping your devices or whatever you want. You can throw anything in there and have it be cleaned there by that. It's a really fun little thing that no one else is doing, and even Hyundai is not using yet in any of the other products. So a really cool thing for Santa Fe. But aside from those two things in the captain's chairs, the calligraphy really doesn't add much more over a regular limited, and those with all-wheel drive are about $48,000 and give you all the main stuff you want: the Bose stereo, the digital gauges here, the heated steering wheel, the cooled seats, all those main, quality of life things, I guess you could say. Those are the things that do get improved here with the Limited. So for me, Limited is the better buy. And SEL is also very well equipped. You still have heated seats, you still have leatherette. The non-digital gauges are just a little simpler, but it's still a digital display. It's just not a full screen. But the SELs are also a very solid proposition as well. And those come in at about $41,000 for an all-wheel drive version of those. $39,000 without the all-wheel drive. And again, at that price point, no one else touches this really, again, aside from, I think even Sorento starts a little higher since there's only 2 trims to pick from for those. So I mean, this is really, if you want to get into a hybrid mid-size thing that, again, still has 3 rows, still has a bunch of space and a very nice vehicle, at $39,000 to $41,000, it's a lot of car for the money, and it's a really solid value. And I'm really impressed with the Santa Fe Hybrid here, despite, again, those shortcomings. And if you are shopping for a Santa Fe Hybrid or any vehicle for that matter, you're definitely going to want to head to mattmoranmotoring.com. There you'll want to go to the new car quotes page, and you'll be able to access dealer invoice pricing, as well as getting connected to some local dealers near you to actually check one of these out in person, take it for a test drive for yourself, and see what you think about the Santa Fe Hybrid and how it fits into you and your lifestyle. So anyway, there'll be a link in the description as well as a pinned comment here that'll send you right to that site if you want to get that info and get connected to check one of these out in person. But anyway, that's all of my thoughts here on the Santa Fe Hybrid. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Huge thanks to Hyundai for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.